2, and 1. You are now tuned into the First and 10 podcast, brought to you, of course, by OXP MEDIA. Myself, I'm Brandon Graham, and I'm very, very pleased to be joined by a recurring guest, but of course, just a legend, Markham's finest. All right, Matt Coates, Canadian football wide receiver, just an excellent athlete and even better person altogether, man. How you doing?
I'm great, man. How's it going?
Going well, of course. And just going back, you were actually, I believe, my first interview for the First and 10 podcast, and extreme honor, of course. But from that point to now, of course, you've done a number of different players, and they all have said glaring things about you, especially the Canadian wide receivers like Nataya J, Shamad Chambers, the list goes on. Just speaking about you, I did have a few questions, to follow up from our last interview, just last year. Oh my goodness, just last year. And I'm just as a wide receiver, yeah, it seemed like exactly. It seemed like yesterday, of course, everyone just the pandemic hit, everything happened. You know what? To start, I'm gonna say, how are you coping with the pandemic that's happening in Canada, and especially staying in shape or whatever? Like, how are you coping with everything so far?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's hard for everyone to some degree. It's affected them in some different way, whether they realize it or not. I've been coping, just being able to see family more in the summer and stuff, when things opened up and whatnot, and it was safer to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously miss playing football and sports and connecting with friends like that, and so it's been tough, but just making the most of it, spending more time with family and being indoors. So it's been a good time per se for me, because I could spend more time with my fiance and then our baby too. So being able to watch her grow every single day almost. So it's been good. It's been good for that for sure. But obviously with your health, mental, physical, there's been challenging times during the year, and just trying to find the best ways to go about to solve those problems.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And I remember before when we had the interview, you were awaiting your daughter coming. So congratulations to yourself and your fiance, champions. There we go. I'm gonna get I don't know, I'm gonna put some audio in there somehow, some way. But that's awesome, man. Glad to see that you guys are coping. Are you working out do you have a routine that you're working out every single day? Are you pumping iron? What are you doing to make sure that the arm is intact?
In the summer I was going for runs here and there. Now it's just chasing her around the house because she can walk now. So.
Yeah.
She's not even a year old and she can walk. So real regiment working out, but just if it's a nice day, I'll try and get a run in or something. But in the summer, threw the ball around with a few friends, but nothing serious. So probably a little bit out of shape, but nothing that a few games will get back.
Hey, nothing the Mustangs cannot get over. We can overcome those obstacles, of course, myself included. So threw around with our boy Andrew Brown, of course, in the summer, and played for a bit, and then realized it's a pandemic. We can't really do too much, right? So kind of getting all of that, right? But anyways, let's start it off. We're going to continue from our conversation. It's great to hear from you. Great to see you. But, of course, yourself, former wide receiver, play quarterback as well. You can literally do it all. Play defense. Play on any side of the ball. You've been very elusive and very flexible there. But when it comes to the wide receiver position, I remember when you told me in our last interview that to create separation, there's different techniques and different stuff you can do. But what is your favorite route to run? Firstly, what's your favorite route to run? And where do you like to line up? First of all, too, what are your favorite and preferred areas to line up, and of course run routes?
So I guess there's a few different spots on the field that entail better options for routes. I personally like lining up in the slot because it just kind of opens up the route tree and really has the defense guessing where you're going to go. You can be involved in the run game too, or play action kind of game. So, I mean, you can on the outside as well, but I just find that the inside allows you to do every single route, as the outside more is in breaking routes and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, the best routes that I enjoy are probably specifically easier to run from the inside would be either a post corner or a corner post, some kind of double move, but stretching the field vertically, and just being able to set your defender up in man, and then you can also run the routes in zone, but more so in man. You can run it as a triple move if you're a quick triple move or a double move or a quick double move. It's kind of just how gives you more a leeway to put your own flavor on it per se. So yeah, those routes are are kind of like my preferred routes.
Mhm.
An in-breaking route, I don't mind those because it's a very great man beater, and
Right.
you can run like a few variations off that too. So you can get outside release if you're experienced and win back on the in route. It just gives you a lot of like flexibility to like what your options are to do and then the quarterback, obviously, if it gives him a little bit of an easier throw in the middle of the field, where if you do your job, it's right in his face kind of thing. Whereas an outbreaking route, he might underthrow it and it's like might be a pick or so. That's I find like an in from either the inside or the outside, you can really set it up in different ways. Since I played a lot of outside receiver at times, I've gotten really experienced at that, so I found to enjoy that route more. But yeah, I think those are, it's like a intermediate route, and then the first being a deeper vertical route.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great answer. And I spoke to Marshall Ferguson, former quarterback at the Massive Marauders, and he said that himself and his receiver outside always had like a connection there and knew how to beat man, knew how to beat zone too. But yourself being a quarterback and a wide receiver, if there's a corner on you that's like pressing hard and it's hard to gain separation, whatever, what would you tell the young receivers? Like, how do you create separation to get into your routes? Would you look like, would you do something like a little hezzy like Devontae Adams, or is it something that you just want to burn them outside? Like, what has been your mentality when you have a guy kind of pressing you and kind of not giving you any separation at all? How do you get that?
So the first thing would be that you got to get their hands off you. So it's a hand battle from start to finish. So initially, if they're up front, I'm assuming they're gonna either come direct hands to me, or they might wait a step and then give me hands, or they might bail out of it and kind of play more like a loose man technique. So the first thing on my mind is they can't get their hands on me, so my hands are up as if I'm entering a fight. And as soon as it's snapped, and when I go forward or make my move, I have my hands working with me, either knock it off them and put me over. But that's the first thing I'm thinking is I'm going to beat them to the jump. They're not going to get their hands on my shoulders or on my body.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah. So then from there, it depends kind of like what your route is and what kind of release and how they're playing you. If they're heavy inside shade up front, then I might slow play it a bit and I might come off the line, give them a headsy or something. If they're straight up, I might try and make a kind of like a dynamic move left or right and then back to the other way, just to get them moving so they're not right in my path. And I don't want to, if they're head up, I don't want to run to the right and try and get around them, and then they can force me out and off my path, or they can force me inside if I go the other way. So I want to kind of have a drastic release where I go a couple steps hard this way and then come back just to get back on my path, and then use my hands and swim or rim technique kind of to get by them. So yeah, it's like when they're off the line, you gotta kind of consider things. You can't oversell on too many things, because if you go hard on your commitment and they just start backing off, then you've kind of wasted time, which is obviously precious when you're trying to get open. And also they you don't get any leverage. So if you want to get close to them to create separation. So if they back up and you kind of don't go anywhere, you haven't gotten anywhere. So you want to still maintain that close distance, where when you're breaking at your breaking point, that's when you create your separation. So you don't want to commit to something that's going to take you way out of the play, but so you also have to read while you're going. So it depends how the defender really truly plays you after the snap. So the first thing is keep your hands up and make sure they don't get their hands on you. The second is where they're playing you, and you have to have some kind of plan in how you're going to beat the DB. Whether it's a hesitation release, or whether it's a drastic release, or just stemming him and kind of like getting by him. Some people do speed releases. I find those to be effective here and there, but it really depends on the route. I mean, if you can go a vertical, then a speed release might be good, where you have time to get back on like a similar line. You don't want to overtrack on the line, but like you also don't want to have a speed release and end up on the sideline, and the QB has nowhere to throw, right? So speed releases, they could be useful depending on how aggressive the DB is. If he's really aggressive and you get his hands off him, you can just speed release and get right by him. But yeah, I found more that setting him up and like not, because once you speed release, he already knows like you're going full speed, so he's just in chase mode. I'd rather have him like close by, and if especially when like a double move or a breaking where I don't want him too far away from me right away, because I want him to be close to me so I can be farther away from him when the separation matters, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah, those are like a few things. Just keep your hands up, have a plan in what you're gonna try and do, and then just being like aware of things that might change during the route, and then to be able to change your plan.
Okay, that makes, that's awesome. That's a great answer. And one thing too, I remember back when we first had our first interview, you said, of course, like yourself, Masoli, and even some other quarterbacks too had some good, good chemistry, in a sense where if you say broke off on a post, right, and you still had kind of an option to break it out, right, and make it a kind of a post corner. When you're playing professionally or just with great quarterbacks altogether, do you find that there's a lot more option routes, and it's pretty much on the quarterback and you to read? Like, is that a lot implemented a lot in the playbook, or is it something that you guys just naturally have or naturally do?
I think it depends on the playbook and what the play call was. Generally, the plays would really, really depend on like a play altogether. Some routes are standard, but most of them would have some kind of nuance to whether it's zone or man and what type of zone. So so it kind of depended. Like obviously you would have to read the right zone, and the QB would have to read the right zone or man. Yeah. And that's in any kind of complex offense. You're going to have a go route can be a simple go route, or it can be a fly and die if there's a high zone, or it can be a change to in-breaking route and man. And that's simply because if you're stretching the zone vertically or horizontally, you're going to want to have the route a certain way. And then if you have man, a wide side fly isn't necessarily going to be a great option, especially when it's going to be a late option. So you'd rather have a 50-yard gain coming in. So it all depends on the scheme. But then there are some routes where, it's a man, it's intended for a man route and for burst man defense, and the option might be a 3-step slant or like a 3-step out kind of thing, or a 3-step in. So it kind of depends on what the play call is. But just like more so you and the QB understanding like what you're gonna read the defense as is the most important, so that you're all on the same page and you recognize the same thing, whether it's cover 3 or cover 4. You both know, okay, it looked like this defense, so we did this thing together, kind of thing.
That makes total sense. It's a great answer. Hey, if you want football mental breakdown by my coach right here, of course, we're gonna get this clipped and get it on, right? That's awesome. So now we're gonna go into the AFC NFC breakdown of this weekend, okay? And before I even start with that, out of the 4 teams, you got to think about it. Out of the 4 teams, which receiver's game do you like watching the most? All right. I see you have a Green Bay Packers jersey on, but which receiver? You think about those 4 teams? Of course, right? All say Sam, of course, right? But which receiver do you have the most fun watching out of the 4 teams remaining?
I feel like, there's obviously some amazing ones there.
Of course.
The league right there. So
I'll give you Stephon Diggs, of course, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, and Mike Evans. Of those 4.
Yeah, so I was thinking Devontae Adams or Mike Evans, and I think I've watched a lot of Mike Evans just over the years, and I've seen him in college with Johnny Manziel playing. And I think the thing that stood out with me and Mike Evans was that he was always so big, but it was remarkable how fast he seemed to go. And he's one of those guys that when he's running, he doesn't look like he's flying, but no one can catch him.
Yeah.
So
exactly. It's nuts.
So I'm like, man, they should be able to catch him. Like, he's a big guy. He's almost like the size of a tight end, but he's running away from everyone. And he's for Alabama, he's catching these deep balls and like pulling away 90-yard touchdowns. And I'm like, man. And then goes to the NFL and still does it. And you're like, no one not in the corners in the NFL can like catch him.
Can catch us, man. Yeah, exactly. Right.
The size, he has so much advantage with, he can body guys, he can go off of the ball with jump balls, fades in the end zone, but then also his in-breaking routes and his routes. So I think if I had to pick a favorite kind of receiver to watch, it might be Mike Evans, just because he's so unstoppable almost, like when he's healthy and he's getting targeted. So you're looking at him, you're just like, how could you stop this guy? Even when you're close, you're still smaller. So
yeah, that's the
it's like of Devontae Adams, and he's become, I don't know how great he was in college. I mean, I'm sure he was fantastic, but he's developed obviously in Green Bay and become like this premier receiver. And I think a large part of it is obviously due to coaching, and he's learned his moves and how to perfect them. And then scheme too, as you've seen last week, like he's catching like 18 touchdowns in the regular season. That's not all. It's just because he's that much better than cornerbacks. Like he is amazing, but obviously the schemes he's catching quick throws, and like I think that's a great element to his game too. It's if he can do that and he can score. I think he scored one week. They just threw him the ball 1-on-1 and he ran it in the end zone. Like no blocks, no nothing. Just the corner didn't have time to react. So I mean, he's probably my second out of those guys. I think Tyreek Hill he's become a great receiver. His speed is obviously just like off the charts, and that's what makes him ridiculous. But
of course.
Just even catching the ball at that speed is super hard to do, and most people wouldn't be able to do that. So I think he's developed into like a great receiver, but I wouldn't say like I've watched him so much from start to finish that I'm like, man, he's remarkable since the start. But he obviously has that game breaking ability.
No, absolutely.
So I mean, Stephon Diggs he's
unreal, man.
Yeah, he just makes plays. So I've grown to respect his ability a lot more than I had to start. I thought he was a number one, but maybe not like on the best team kind of thing. But now I can see how he just holds himself and like plays with just like the ability to like take over games kind of thing. I think Mike Evans overall is just like a complete receiver that you can't really defend right now. And on top of that, he can add in the run game. So it's just like a complete receiver, and like the guy I kind of like enjoyed watching the most would be Mike Evans for sure.
Wow, that's a great answer. You gave me a breakdown of each of those guys. I'm gonna go with Devontae Adams because I think he plays football like he's playing basketball, right? Like with the hezzy, the jab step, like he's just nasty off the ball, right? But that's what it is. But anyways, I'm gonna get into the games now, and we'll talk a little more about like quarterbacks as well too. We're gonna start in Green Bay, all right, in Lambeau Field. Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady for the first time. You've seen Tom Brady play in person, right? You've seen this, but I wanted to get your take on this and see exactly what happens. 3:05 p.m. on Sunday. Can't wait. Green Bay are favored by 3 points right now. Going into that game and seeing exactly how Aaron Rodgers is playing, and then seeing that like Tom Brady just doesn't lose. He's literally like 14-3, I believe. He just doesn't lose. He's lost 3 times in the playoffs, right? What are your takes of going into this game? Who do you think is going to have the better performance off rip between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady? Let's go with that first.
Oh, right. I think it's going to be close. Yeah. I think it might be a pick or two, maybe a pick that separates the two. Right. It's really gonna come down to, I think, which running game is kind of doing better, or able to establish themselves more. I think stats wise, I think Aaron Rodgers is gonna be better. I think he's just had such a great year, and Tom Brady's had a good year too, but he's been filling in pieces and working with injuries and everything and connecting and everything. I just think the Bucs are able to do things just on the ground and through screens and stuff that doesn't demand as much from him, but he's still able to throw the ball downfield how the scheme has it. Just out of a pure passing and watching the games though, watching games and it's just 3 touchdowns a half regularly, 4 touchdowns to Aaron Rodgers. So it's hard to really go against stats like that. And I think their scheme obviously helps them a lot too. Both schemes are awesome and fit the QBs. So it'll be close, but I think Aaron Rodgers will edge him in the numbers. Gameplay wise, it'll be a toss up.
It'll be a toss up there for sure. I don't want to give it too much because I'm gonna get to your picks really soon. Next question I have, of course, which players do you think are going to be the X factors on defense? So when you think about defense now, you have on the Buccaneers side, you have Devin White. All right, you have a number of guys that are just playing out of their mind on defense. Which player on defense do you think are going to be the kind of standouts for Green Bay and the Bucs?
The linebackers on the Bucs are obviously remarkable. I mean, the last few years they've been ridiculously good, and they kind of held that team together, even with like the offense having turnover problems. And I think the linebackers on the Bucs are going to be huge. To see if they can stop the run and if they can stop the play action and the passing and everything and being apart. So I think they're the key to the defense on the Bucs. On the Green Bay, I think it's their DBs. I think all of them have to come. Like they're gonna have their weapons against them. They have Evans. I think Brown if he's healthy.
Brown, man.
They have Godwin if he stays hopefully, and they have Gronk. I mean, even Brate's emerging now, and their running backs. So, like, their running backs will line up on their linebackers, but just overall, their DBs, they have to be able to stop Brady and man, because Stone, he's going to pick them apart. So, man, it's going to come down to man. And if your third receiver's on Antonio Brown and he's healthy, like, I don't know, that's a problem, right? So,
that's a problem.
So, I think their DBs will lead the game. I mean, they've shown that they can throw them in man coverage with Amos behind them. So it'll be a good game. But yeah, I think the linebackers for the Bucs and the corners and DBs for the Packers will kind of determine how well the defense does.
Right, 100%. And in the past too, before the New England Patriots beat the Kansas City Chiefs a few years ago in Arrowhead, in the snow, in the cold, I was like, hey, Tom Brady is not going to be able to win in the cold. This guy wins anywhere, anytime, and I'm kind of scared for the Green Bay Packers. But with that being said, who do you think's going to win this game, and who's going to be like the guy you think's going to kind of have to step up on either end of the ball? Right? Like I'm going to say it's going to be Devontae Adams, but exactly who do you think's going to really have be the X factor or the guy that's going to take the team over the top in this game and win?
So it's going to be a close game, like everyone thinks. I think.
Yeah.
It's. I honestly think it's going to come down to a couple turnovers. Overall, the scheme of things. I think they'll both be pretty disciplined, no penalties, kind of thing, low penalties. I think crucial things that I kind of noticed was if the Packers get too greedy and try and get points before half, and it causes them to have turnovers, that could be a big problem. Especially because if you spot Brady a lead, I mean, he comes back how many times to win games? He doesn't need a lead. It's going to be even easier. More importantly, I think the second half will be a huge detriment to the game. Who's gonna win in the second half will be who's gonna win. And it honestly feels like whoever's gonna get the ball last is gonna win. Like I'm looking at so many drives in games where Tom Brady gets the ball and it's like a minute 45 left, and you're like, oh, it's too much time. And
way too much time,
comes back, kicks the field goal. Come back to Aaron Rodgers and drives the field in like 35 seconds. You're like, why doesn't everyone just do this? It's so easy. But I think, if either team gives the ball back to the other team with just under 2 minutes or just over 2 minutes, that team is looking good. The edge, it's in game breaker. I mean, obviously I have a little bias with the Packers and Rodgers, but I think the Packers are going to be able to do it. I think their edge it's going to be their home field. I think they're going to have a few fans. It's not going to make a world of a difference, but it's definitely going to help. The cold, I think if the colder the game, I think the more advantage goes to the Packers. They've been playing in it for the last who knows how long. As much as it's not a factor to anyone, you're going there. It's like if you play in Florida if you're playing in 30-degree weather all the time, and then you go and you could have won 10 out of 10 games in -10, but every single time, if the other team's playing in it and practiced in it for months on end, that's a slight advantage, and the slight advantages add up, So I think those will be like kind of unwritten, because I mean unrecognized, because obviously Brady's won in the cold in the past, and it's not like it was super warm in New England either. So I just think the whole team helps Green Bay having a home game there. I feel like a few players might not be able to handle that from the Bucs, it might go unnoticed, and I think that might give them a slight edge. Game breakers, I think it's going to come down to I think Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady are going to manage the ball fine. I think the receivers are going to perform like they've always performed, and I think the big thing is going to be Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, and the Dillon kid. If they can get all those three guys rolling, I think those guys will be the kind of the game changers. So I mean, it's kind of like a group per se, but that has to. I mean, I think Aaron Jones is a big part of their offense, and if he can get some explosive plays, it'll be huge for them. And I think he will, and I think they'll be able to do that. And I think I think they're going to win the game, but it's obviously biased. I wouldn't take the Bucs lightly at all. I mean, you saw at the end of the half last week when Tom was just got enough yards to get a field goal out, and it comes in tie game. I mean, it doesn't really matter at the end of the time when it's tied, but that's 3 points. It's 3 points. He didn't throw a pick. He didn't turn the ball over. He didn't take a sack. He tied the game, and then they don't have to go into deficit. And then later in the game, they end up winning by a couple scores instead of just squeaking it out. So, I think Aaron Jones and the running back, if they can get those guys going, those guys will be the kind of the key to the game. We know what we're going to get from Davante Adams. He's going to score once or twice, if not more. He's going to get probably more than 100 yards. So I don't think he's going to be the game changer. You know what you're going to get from him, and he's going to do it, and it's a big role in the offense. But I think one of the game changers is going to come from the backfield of Packers.
100%. And I was going to ask you this too. It's like you played in Florida, you yourself played in Florida, or even in warm weather, and you played obviously in Canada too. Is it for receivers as well? Is it a major difference? Like, do you have to get used to the cold to be able to catch these balls from these guys that are gutting the ball in? Like, for a guy like Mike Evans or Antonio Brown that's been in the warm to go to Green Bay now, wouldn't it make a difference being in the cold weather? Yeah,
definitely. Catching the ball is catching the ball, but there's little tricks you learn, ways to keep your gloves dry, to keep your hands warm, to keep moving. I mean, these guys, it's not like they haven't played in cold weather at all. Like, they've obviously played in cold weather in the NFL. It's just practicing in it and knowing the nuances of, it's like catching the ball 100 times with one hand or 20 times with one hand. If you can do it, you can do it. But obviously, the more reps you have, the better. So practicing in that cold and knowing how their speeds are going to move in that cold for so many weeks and almost months now. I think, it's obviously different catching the ball. It's harder. The ball's harder. Depending on your gloves, it might stick less. It might be more slick. So those receivers have years and years of experience, and that's why they're great. But I think just like more so they're role players, and maybe they're younger receivers that have had standout catches and like big downs. Maybe that'll play an impact on them. Maybe the DBs might drop some balls when they're not expected. Normally it would just stick. Maybe it gets a little more slick. They're not moving as fast, so some guys, they might get burnt a couple times. More linebackers in coverage. I think to start the game, to get them back into it is into that cold and get, especially if they're off the field or something, like to just get into the game, it's gonna take a little longer. So
right. That's pretty much it. That makes sense. You played everywhere around the world, cold or warm. So you definitely have the answer for that. But now going to my favorite game of the week. Let's go Buffalo. Buffalo Bills against the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, we saw Chad Henne. Anything is possible last week, and to save the team. Andy Reid's like the GOAT pretty much at this point. It's gonna be a great game in Arrowhead. It's kind of pretty much it's kind of a down part in their town concept. The fact that the game's in Arrowhead and not in Buffalo, because Buffalo lose their minds if they won. But seeing this game right now, and of course the fifth lowest pass defense with the Bills. And they have a Tre'Davious White, they have a Matt Milano, they have a Tremaine Edwards, they have a number of guys on defense. Do you think they're going to be able to slow down Patrick Mahomes if he can play? And this week, do you think they're going to be able to?
I think they will. I think they'll be able to slow him down.
Wow.
I was talking to a couple buddies of mine, and they're one of the only teams that were like, man, these guys give like the Chiefs a real shot. And I personally, I think the Chiefs are as explosive as any offense in the league, if not the explosive. What I don't like about them is sometimes they go on lulls. And I think it just gets overlooked by most people and the media especially. And they think, oh, they score 40 points, and they do. They score so many points. But there's some times where they go 2-0, 3-0 consecutive drives. And I'm like, yeah, if you're doing this versus a good team and then the good team doesn't, let's say they force you to 2, 3 and outs in one half. So let's say you have 10 points on the board. And if they can outscore you there and then they just match you in the second half, they can win. And I think a team like Buffalo, they can do that. I think that defense with those guys, you're going to have guys that don't that match up decently well, at least. Where before, mismatches everywhere. So I think if without Mahomes, I don't think it's honestly a game. It's going to be close because it's the playoffs, but I don't they can't win without him. Not a full game. With Mahomes, another thing is it seemed like he hurt his foot in that game. So
that's what they're saying.
So it looked like he hurt his toe. So I mean,
he
less
did.
mobile. He's had no practice all week, which isn't saying a whole lot, but that's still something. And so he's less mobile, and he has to stay in the pocket, and he hasn't really practiced, had those reps that are really important when you're playing one of the best defenses. So that, and he's gonna have to make plays whether he's hurt or not. I think that's one game where obviously the Chiefs have to be favorited, but I do feel like the Bills are going to come in there, and I honestly feel like they're going to win that game because I think their offense potential matches the Chiefs' potential, but I think their defense is slightly better than, or if not, it's better than the Chiefs, and I think they're going to win them that game, man.
Wow, he's going with Buffalo. Well, starting with Josh Allen, 182 play action passes this year, and he's had a passer rating of 107.1. So a huge passer rating, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. But Josh Allen is pretty much third on the ballot pretty much for the MVP this year, right? And then you have Stephon Diggs, you have Cole Beasley. All right, you have oh my goodness, how am I forgetting this? Gabriel Davis, John Brown. You have a number of guys on the outside, plus Singletary and Zach Moss to run the ball, and a great O-line.
Yeah.
Just putting this together right now, between those two guys with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, do you think they're going to be able to stretch the field and beat the guys like Rashad Breeland, Tyrann Mathieu? That defense is good too. Do you think you're going to be able to stretch the ball?
It's definitely a great defense, and I mean the thing is they've been beat though before, and I think Tyrann Mathieu is a ball hawk, and he just makes plays. He finds the ball, and somehow he's done it since college, his first year, sure, in high school, and he's always been a playmaker. So, I mean, those guys, he did it last week too. As soon as you get into extended plays, you can't break those rules that you were taught and that are sometimes they turn out to great plays, but are critical. You can't break those rules because guys like the Honey Badger, he's going to be there, and he's that type of guy that's going to capitalize on those mistakes. And I think stretching the ball downfield, I feel like they can. I feel like Mahomes can. Obviously, he can at any point, but I feel like with the receivers, I feel like it's a little bit harder for Mahomes to do that because he won't be able to buy as much time. Especially with his foot injury, and even if he's fully healthy, I mean, it's a risk every time. But he's obviously going to take that that role outside, kind of to throw the ball downfield, but. I feel like Buffalo's defense is going to be a little harder to get by, whereas I feel like the main thing that the Browns were missing was Odell, and it was amazing to see them win so many games this year without a true number one receiver, and that's no knock on their guys. Their guys are obviously outstanding, and but there's a difference between a true number one and a next guy, which all the Browns are all really good receivers, but they're not like a true game-breaking number one guy.
Jarvis Landry? Jarvis Landry's not like a true number one right now?
He's a great intermediate possession receiver, but downfield, he's not able to just take the top off the defense. And I've been following him all year in the last few years because I've had him on fantasy and everything, and he's done amazing. He blocks very well, and you have to have him starting your offense. But you need a guy like Diggs where the defense can't just say we're gonna keep you to short gains. If you do that to Diggs, he's just gonna eat you up, and then he's just gonna fly right by you. And that's what he's done all season, and especially in the playoffs versus Indianapolis. And last week, you're just waiting for it, and then you see Diggs. Last week he just ran by the guy. Allen looked him off, threw it downfield, 45-yard touchdown. Nothing you can do about it. So I think you have to have that help over him. And even then, with play action, he's going to find the middle of the field. I think for the Colts, he looked like he was the only receiver on the field, and
literally,
like how not that hard, but obviously it is that hard. And I think the Bills with that X factor receiver that could just get downfield and make every type of play is honestly going to be the difference between what potentially the Browns couldn't do with their full team and what the Bills will be able to do. That's a great
answer. And one thing too that Tony Romo brought out. Shout out to GT, by the way. The Browns are really far, but last week, Tony Romo and a lot of people just kind of went in and looked at the game tape for the Chiefs and saw that, hey, you line Tyreek Hill up in the slot and you just have him, kind of doing a slanted up, just a slanted go route.
Yeah,
exactly. You have him do that. It's unstoppable, right? Especially because you have linebackers on him. Who are they going to put on Tyreek Hill, and how are they going to stop pretty much the best tight end in the game in Travis Kelce? My guy, Travis Kelce, I would never not have him on my fantasy team. How are they going to be able to stop that guy at all? Like those two guys at all? How are they going to have to do it?
It's going to be tough. I mean, that's why it's outside they've been able to win basically 24 to 25 games in the last 2-3 years, whatever it is. I think their line and it's going to have to get a good rush constantly. They're going to have that. The linebackers in zone coverage are going to have to be really aware and moving around well. I don't know who they're going to stick on Hill. Haven't done enough research on that, but I mean, when they go in man, like Romo kept pointing out, is that safety has to come with them, and it's tough though because you put that wide out in that corner on an island then because of the safety is supposed to he should stay where he is staying. But with a guy like Hill in the slot like that, you're really gambling. So I mean, we'll see how much man they do. I feel like they could compete with it, but you can't let Mahomes get out of the pocket then or extend plays because as soon as you do that, that's when they're going to have big plays. I would almost rather, and I think that's what teams kind of been doing, is if sometimes when you drop in zone more, make Mahomes hit those and just don't give anything deep. I think that's what would be the Chiefs. I think you just can't give them free explosive plays, and they're so good at getting those explosive plays, whether you're in man or zone. You just can't give them. If you don't give those explosive plays, you'll get them off of the field a few times, maybe hold them to a couple of field goals and a couple other drives. And if your offense is what your offense should, then I feel like that's how you're going to beat them. You can't put yourself in man too many times, especially when they know it, because they're going to draw up those plays that just are impossible to stop. Hill and Kelce one with unless even with the best guys in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really funny you said you can't go in man too much because like Patrick Mahomes is number one against the blitz. Like he literally he has the best passer rating against the blitz and 134.2 passer rating against the blitz. That's ridiculous, right? Best, pretty much the best in the past like 10 years against the blitz. So with that being said, Tre'Davious White can go on top of Tyreek Hill, but that's going to be tough, right? And Poyer, probably another guy they can put kind of run around, but they got a great secondary in Buffalo. So with that being said, we had so many technical talk. Your take, I want you to let me know who you want from these two games, who is going to the Super Bowl and who's going to win the Super Bowl.
So from the two games, I think the Packers are going to do it with just a slight edge. But like I said, could come down to the last drive of the game. So, and you never want to count Brady out in the second half, especially. So, I think they'll squeak that one out, and I think the Bills are going to upset the Chiefs. I think whether it's Patrick Mahomes playing and not playing fully healthy with his concussions this week and with his injury in his foot, but I think the Bills defense can be able to do that. And then it's going to be the Bills and the Green Bay. I haven't really looked at that.
Just your favorites. Just who do you? Yeah.
At that
point, who do you think's no win
for both? But I feel like Aaron Rodgers has something to prove this year. So I think he might just get it done, man.
Definitely.
It'll be hard. That'll be more of a complete game. I think both two really good defenses and both two explosive offenses. So that might even turn into literally a defensive battle because you're playing your opponent too. So if they don't feel safe just taking shots and giving the defensive good field position, it might just be back and forth and low scoring. So, but I'm going to take the Packers. I think they're
Okay.
at the beginning of the year, they weren't showing ability to separate from teams and like just make. But I think last week, I mean, regardless of who was at quarterback and how healthy he was, and they just beating the Rams, making sure it was a safe kind of win. Obviously walking over the Bears, but like it's just it just looks like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and the whole team is just on a mission this year, and he finally has the defense to back him, and you're just like, man, and he's motivated clearly. So it's I think any one of these four teams can really win the Super Bowl. It's obviously not unrealistic. They're the best four teams for sure this year, but yeah, I think Green Bay is going to top it all, man.
That's what it is, man. Hey, I agree with you, but I'm gonna have to go a different route. I'm gonna say the Bills beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs might win it all, but screw it. We're on the show. The Bills gonna beat the Chiefs. Packers gonna beat the Bucks. I agree too, but Tom Brady might surprise us. But the Bills are gonna win the Super Bowl, and Bills Mafia Buffalo will be down in flames. It's gonna be unbelievable. I'll go through the border and party with them. I don't care. The best football experience I've had in my life was going to a game last year. So in Buffalo, but we're gonna hope for that, but let's see. But I know this is definitely Aaron Rodgers' a year. He's kind of like a lit a fire under his butt. Matt LaFleur did, and he's like the best natural thrower of the football ever, right? Usually I would say, oh, I'm a pretty good natural thrower, you're pretty good natural, but this guy's like the best natural thrower of football. Last thing I'll leave you with, right? Because it's such a great talk, but Drew Brees is kind of going out. Like, it's so sad for like a small quarterback. Guys that you look up the small quarterbacks, he's like the epicenter, the top guy there.
Yeah.
Do you think they lost because of him? And do you think that if they had like Jameis Winston or no, you know what? I won't even ask that. That's pretty sad. It's gonna make me cry. But with that being said, with Drew Brees, what he's done in the past and what he's done, especially, like, do you think that he ever had a chance? Like, should they have started him? Should they have started him, or would they have won against the Bucks if they started, like, say, Taysom Hill, and if he was healthy?
No, I think they had to start him. I read some posts that he said that he played with like a messed up rotator and something hurt in his foot, like something torn almost. I mean, you got a guy playing like that, broken ribs, collapsed lung, comes back like less than a month later or whatever it was, comes back to play games in his last year potentially. And I think he's old and he's only going to get injured easier, and it's harder for him to heal. And he's not like he's gaining strength just from his age. You got to play him just from the respect standpoint, but also from the talent and from the knowledge of the game. Like, those games aren't won by just throwing the best player in, because the playoff games, like every playoff game, every round is faster, and he's been there before, and he's shown that he can do it. And I mean, he's done it for years and years and has all those records. And I think honestly the biggest downfall was his inability to throw the ball downfield. And I mean, now that things are coming out how hurt he actually was. I mean, it makes a lot of sense why they weren't able to do that. But I feel like they should have schemed up some kind of plan where they just took a couple shots, whether they're incomplete or not, just so like the defense doesn't play as aggressive. And just give them a couple better under routes to check down and stuff. I think obviously there's a couple of picks that got him in trouble. And you can't have those. There's a good team like the Bucks. So I think they played the right guy. I definitely wouldn't have played another quarterback on that roster over him. They've been able to run the ball with Kamara, with Murray, and just they've been able to move the ball and throw quick passes to Thomas and everything. I'm not sure why they didn't do too much of that last game, but
he was injured apparently.
He was injured too, but I mean, if he's dressing out there, you can catch the ball, right? So
that's true. Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't get him, just Breeze and Thomas, a little more comfortable in the game. But yeah, I think they started the right guy, and I mean, you're not looking at a chump for the defense either. Like the defense made some amazing plays. So I think they took their odds, and I think those were the best odds for them to win.
Definitely, man. Hey, really appreciate it. I mean, great answers and everything, of course. Hopefully the Packers do win the Super Bowl, of course. kind of go from there. But is there anything else? Any shout outs you want to give? Like what do you want to ask it all together? If you have anything on your mind, you can just say it now because I got all my questions out.
No, I think I'm good, man. I just hope that everyone stays healthy in the playoffs, so that it's really like these matchups are the really true kind of telling of how good these teams are.
Right.
You know, I've always been a kind of a critic of Brady, but I think he's really proven himself. He separated himself from talking to my buddy the other day, and we really truly think he separated himself from Bill.
Right. Yeah,
I think what they did together was only because of how great they are separately.
Right.
Like they wouldn't have been able to accomplish that with someone subpar, not like the other guy. But I think you can obviously see how Brady goes to a new team, takes over the leadership role. Arians is even talking about him coaching the room when he wasn't allowed to do that before. Obviously, that was his team, and the offense was his. And you can see that's just the way he's moving the ball, getting points where you can find them. I mean, he's not the remarkable passer he is like he used to be, and he's still able to drive and score touchdowns when they matter. So I think he deserves some credit. Just whether he wins or loses this week, I mean, just bringing that franchise around into a playoff team and do a top 4 competitive team that should be considered to be able to win at the Super Bowl for sure. So I mean,
for sure.
Yeah, there's just I think we'll see if I mean, shout out to Drew Brees too, obviously for playing that many injuries and Mike Tomlin for playing through whatever he had going on. So I mean, I hope that they're. I mean, they don't tell you that much information, but that all the guys are actually truly healthy, so that we get the games that we deserve to watch and that they deserve to be playing in.
100%, man. That's what it is. Football just brings so much life, man. I don't know where I'll be without football. Saved my life, thank God. But anyways, hey, this is the first 10 podcast. Hey, really appreciate you having you on. Hopefully we'll have you on again in the future to go probably through some other things too, or even the Super Bowl. We'll see exactly where we are. Really appreciate having you on, man. Matt Coates, you'll follow him at the Pops from Markham. What exactly is your Instagram? Where can they follow you?
Just the Pops from Markham, buddy.
Just the Pops from Markham. Just Pops from Markham, of course. Markham Mustangs football shows to everyone on our team. This is the first 10 podcast. Keep balling.